Hello, and welcome to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michele. Today's key word is optics. Optics meaning the way a situation, action, or event, etc. is perceived by the public or a particular group of people, or it could be by just one person. So I have optics on my mind for 3 reasons. The first reason is last night I had a date that now tops my list of all-time worst dates. The short story from the night was my date went on an angry rant, yep, I said angry rant, that I somehow provoked by suggesting there might be a better way to treat a waiter, and I was encouraging empathy. Note, being an absolute rude tool was not the suggestion I made. It was the total opposite. I have experienced, his rant was close to what I've experienced with a live internet troll. And it included phrases like, you are this, and you are one of those people, which was really off-putting to me. After 2 dates, this guy is 100% certain of the optics on me, considering how much he talked about himself and never asked me a single question to get to know me. I think not. Second thing that is a reflection of optics is inspired by exchange of comments on Instagram that was more of a true internet troll form. Again, the use of you are this and your agenda were used by a person I was exchanging words with. My agenda? You know my agenda, total stranger? Wow. Do not tell me, judgmental person who has done no investigative research on what I'm about, that you know who I am. I thought we were actually getting somewhere when he agreed that no matter where we get your news from these days, there's always an intended slant. But where I was willing to look at information from sources he was going to share, he was not willing to look at mine. Again, optics. And the last reflection of optics occurred last night. Shout out to my friends Ryan and Hal. I had a delightful dinner with 2 people I've experienced separately and really like them, but never experienced them together. In a comfortable home environment, the banter, the humor, the conversation, the realness, and the curiosity of all things was energy-giving. I'm seeing both of my friends in a more expansive way from just this one night. There's a reason, guys, why I always sign off every show with an encouragement to be more curious. Curiosity inspires childlike joy that all people in the exchange of curiosity benefit from. It increases knowledge and decreases attachment to thinking, old stories, and experiences that might not be serving us. As today's guest reminded me, at any given time, there are hundreds of even thousands of ways to view an experience sometimes. Exploring that by asking yourself, is this way I'm seeing this beneficial to me? And by asking others, is there more to this? Am I missing anything? Before assigning meaning, and this creates space for exploration and growth. All of this starts with just one simple journey that costs no money to go on and only has expansive upsides to continue to explore. This journey is the journey of self. One of my favorite self-explorers is my guest today. Every time I've talked to him, I've learned something new about the journeys of self that he has been on, and I'm always inspired, and it's always inspiring to me. I suspect you'll find a lot of inspiration in today's show as well as our conversation evolves. If you're watching via live Facebook stream, ponder and comment this question. What has been your greatest self-discovery? Now let's meet our guest, Cleo Hughes. Hey. Cleo Hughes is and has been many things over the course of his life. A son, a brother, an uncle, a veteran, a friend, a world traveler, an actor, a writer, an entrepreneur, and a pie maker. Yes, I said pie maker. You'll hear more about that. Recently, Cleo discovered he's eligible for the California Cannabis Social Equity Program. Mostly, Cleo is an explorer of self. He is committed to understanding himself and others with a deeper sense of spirituality, physical environment, and mental well-being. So excited about this conversation today. Welcome, Cleo.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good today. Today, started off like every day.
Yeah.
A bit of an adventure.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was coming to your studio, so I left home a little early and, traverse downtown, which isn't that far from me, but I did it in a different way. I didn't take the freeway. I actually went the streets, and I didn't realize downtown was that close to me via street.
Yeah. So, and you were here on time. You were here, not only were you here on time, you were early, you were prepared. It's like, it's all good, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So the first thing that I ask guests when they come sit with us on Relatable is like, there anything that's just pulling your attention that you just want to share and get off your chest before we get into our conversation today?
Well, always there's things pulling at me on my chest. I don't know about getting them off because things stay with me and I revisit them in ways, but you know, I keep it moving because I sort of integrate the present with the past, even though I try to stay as focused on the present because that seems to work for me better.
What was the saying that you shared with us before we got on set that has been motivational in that way?
Yeah, a friend of mine who's a South African diplomat, I say he brought it to me special for me, you know, a gift for me from the continent. Yeah. And he says, live life in the perfect present. And that is one of my new mantras.
Nice. I like it. I like it. So we've heard a lot of things about you, and we're going to probably get to a couple of them. But tell me a little bit about your childhood that seems to be relevant to the man that you are today, that started to paint the picture of like, yeah, this is who I'm going to be. Like, is there like a pivotal moment that gives us like an insight of who you are?
Well, I mean, you kind of pointed it out. I'm an adventurer and a curious person. Speaking of which, one of my favorite characters as a kid was Curious George.
Oh, yeah.
So that sort of set the stage for me and giving myself permission to sort of like act like Curious George and look around corners and, you know, get into things. One of the things I did as a young person, I remember we didn't have a lot of money. We were actually pretty poor, and my first encounter with what I do today, like with cooking, was through an experience I had when I discovered that I like to cook. Yeah. And I did so because I cooked up the whole month's worth of groceries in one sitting, which was such a, you know, it was a big deal, but it was interesting because my family, they sort of supported me in that. And, it was, you know, otherwise, I mean, normally they would have screamed at me or I would have gotten in a lot of trouble, but I cooked up everything because it felt so good doing it. Yeah. So I cooked up all the meals for the month in one day. So you just went into the kitchen and started cooking and it got good to me, and I just added things to it. And I said, I can make this. I made spaghetti. I made a chicken. I made all these things. I made cakes. I made cornbread. I did all these different things. That's a fun story. Do you, was there somebody that encouraged you to be curious outside of Curious George? Where do you think in your family that you got this like quest for life or this, you know, curiosity for life? I think, I mean, didn't encourage me, but showed me. I think my mother, to be really honest. My mother was an adventurer, you know, just by default. You know, she did things in unconventional ways, and she took us along for the journey. At least me and my younger brother, because she had kids late in life. Yeah. And she just would take us places, and we, you know, so I think that opened me up to the adventures. She might have been journeying, you know, so you were just living by her example and not necessarily, hey, son, do these things, but she was kind of doing this as well. Right, right. She always showed me, like, I mean, I remember as a kid, she showed us, she took, you know, we're part Native American, so she took me on a nature walk and showed me what I could eat from the wild. Nice. Right? Yeah. That kind of stuff. So there's two things that we teased in the bio. We've got to talk about the pie making, and then we'll talk about cannabis, which together those two things might be good too. But let's, pie making, just a little tease on that. So the Lemon Supreme dessert that I do, and it's a pie and it's a lot of things. It's a part of the adventure in me that I'm doing other things with it, because I do it as an ice cream scoop and I do it as candies now. But pie was its original form, and it's based on a family recipe. And my great aunt used to do it. And as a kid, you know, I'd watch her do it, and actually did not know the recipe by, you know, seeing her do the recipe. Yeah. It was by taste that I recreated it, and actually left a lot of the ingredients out, but captured the essence. And I really think the essence of it, you know, as I'm experiencing with people eating it, is love. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I love about you and what fascinates me about you is like how
you brought that into a social environment too. Like you would go to a market and let people, encourage them to taste it, and and react to each other in the taste, and like there's nothing but love in that exchange. I really enjoyed like seeing the pictures of how you were encouraging them to taste it, and how they were sharing it.
You're talking about the campaign I did on my Instagram. It was called Lovers Loving Lemon Supreme.
Yeah.
And I pretty much got them to taste it at the same time.
It was like a Lady and Tramp moment, like with the noodles, only with the pie. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'd put some on each end and I'd have them exchange.
Yeah. It's a great way to experience pie. And let's talk about the cannabis program. So tell me, teased in your bio that you have found out that you're eligible for this SEP cannabis program in California. What is that?
So the social equity program around cannabis in the state of California, I didn't know what it was when I first encountered it. And then I had an idea of what I wanted it to be just from the name. And one of the key elements that I found out that made me qualified, because I actually didn't think I was qualified, if you had any arrest in your family, I actually thought that I had to be arrested, but that wasn't the case, so I sort of disqualified myself in that thinking. But I was later to find if you had any of that in your family background, which I had my fair share, and but the real key there was you had to be from a certain zip code, which I thought was interesting because the zip code that qualified me was a zip code I had lived in, because you have to live there for 5 years. But it was outside of where I thought they should be focusing their energies or their focus if it's going to be called a social equity program. It was outside of South Central that this
Interesting.
Because I was living in Los Feliz at the time.
And we should back up and explain. So California, and is it California the state or just Southern California or county?
I believe it's the state overall.
So now that cannabis is legal, marijuana use is legal, so they're saying that if somebody wants to apply for some sort of business license to either grow or sell, they are going to create a program to make it easier for minorities that
have suffered from some form of unnecessary punitive,
because of how people have been criminalized for drug use or selling, so that's a program that is out there that most people don't know about, right? And you were encouraged to do it because what?
Well, it wasn't so much an encouragement. It's like I discovered, in my adventurous thing, I was actually I was at a postal off of Larchmont, and this woman came in. I was talking to the owner of the postal business because I was getting something, was it?
Notarized?
Yes, notarized.
I don't know how I
Thank you.
We should play on charades together.
So she was notarizing something, and we were talking, and this woman came in, and she listened to us and joined the conversation, and then she mentioned this social equity program and asked me if I knew about it, and I was like, no, I don't. But I had been thinking along those lines that something like that could or should happen. Yeah. Right?
And more progressives, I know there's ones happening in New York. I think in some, we're not the only ones in terms of California doing this, but it's so new that you've experienced some kinks to it, huh?
Yes, yeah. And that there's not because I'm considered an applicant. I discovered that I'm, eligible to be an applicant. Well, there's no application as of yet.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm like, okay, well, they're starting, but I've been told that it is a real thing and that all that is coming. I'm not sure when, but.
If anybody's watching that knows more about this and that can help us jump through some of the hurdles, please reach out and we'll share Cleo's information at the end. But yeah, I'm glad to see they're doing it. I hate hearing that it's difficult. It's not as easy as it
sounds. Yes, as it sounds. Yes, it sounds like it's a nice little tie knot, but I think they really didn't know what they're in for, and they still don't know how. Kind of made an
announcement, a little cart before the horse. It seems like.
No.
Government, come on, guys, come All right, well, so these are just things that are going on right now with you, but so the show's about self-discovery, and we had a couple conversations before we got here today, and you just, like I said in the opening, like every time I talk to you, you're sharing something new, and I'm like, well, that's cool too, and that's inspirational. And then and then our exchange of like, well, what are we going to talk about? You shared this really beautiful written piece that you had wrote about yourself, and kind of goal oriented, but like stating some intentions. And there's so many things that I resonated with, and I just thought they were beautiful. Are you okay with me sharing a couple things from this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is how you're going to know that this gentleman sitting next to me knows all about self-discovery and just journeying, being on this journey. So
can I preface it?
Yes,
with,
absolutely.
So when I wrote this piece, I was really in turmoil because I had lost 3 of my siblings in the 90s. And this piece came from a place.
Close proximity, right? They
were, I mean, it was like within a year and a half, I lost boom, boom, boom. 3 siblings, out of 8 of us. And they were older siblings in that case. But it pushed me to, sort of the brink of like, what is life really about?
Yeah. All right. So here's the first one that I was really inspired by, and I'll have you share what it means more to you. So to recognize my programming and past experiences for what they were and not use them as a basis for judging present experiences.
So although I still do some of that, it was a marker. It was a a goal that I wanted to set for myself. I actually with my new mantra, living in the perfect presence, I'm doing it better today, I'll have to say, but I still oscillate with, reaching back to the past and, dealing with what's going on in the future. In some ways it helps. And I say this now with a little bit of learned experience under my belt around what life really is about. Well, a lot of the now preaching is like, be in the now. But sometimes, as I believe and I've experienced, it's important to look back to see how far I've come and to really use some of that experience in the present moment. So it's also the way that I experience life and time. They all overlap. The past, the present, and the future have always in some way appeared to be happening at the same time for me.
And it's spiritual too, right? When you start to think of it that way, that how time and things intersect, there is no timeline. It's just more, okay, here's what you're learning. This is your journey.
What is. Yeah. This is what is, and the isness is, I think, where it lives.
I agree. Why I like this statement and why it just it hit me. I felt it. The use of the word programming. So often I'll watch something, whether it be entertainment or news, and I'll say, oh, this is programming. It's meant for me. And sometimes it's a good programming and sometimes it's bad, but it's the marketing part of me knowing that every single piece of content, except this show, every single piece of content that we are exposed to has some intended, we want you to feel this way, think this way, do something because of it. Entertainment has become really, a lot of political agendas, but certainly the news. So I hear myself and I catch myself in, is this programming? What are they trying to program into me? Is it good programming for me now, or do I need to kind of move off this? I think there's a lot of awareness in using that word, and understanding that, at any given time, some of that's going on, outside of you.
Well, the truth of the matter around this piece, and when I wrote it, I actually talk about it because even though I'm a writer and I've been told that I should write, and people are always saying you should write a book because I've lived so much, this piece, this work or writing came from like a walk-in experience. And I'll say this from my super subconscious, that as I wrote it, I really wasn't as aware of everything that I was saying in it, but my super subconscious was.
Yeah.
And that word probably is part of that. But again, it's manifested in a way because you said intention. And one of the things I'd like to say is another mantra in a place that I live from: pay attention to your intention. It will lead you places where you will want to be, sometimes where you don't want to be, but for the most part where you probably need to be.
I love that. Pay attention to your intention. That's a good one. That's a soundbite from this show. Pay attention to your intention. I love it. All right, so the next line that I really liked, I liked it all, but I had to pull out my favorites. So the second one was, I would like exploration to not be limited by gender, race, or any other of the many categories I've defined and put people in.
And on that piece, I was referring to my dating and life and my experience sexually, as I've grown to be the sexual being, and I feel like I'm in my infancy, even though I've experienced a lot of sex in my Dumpty Dump years on this earth. No, actually 57. And so the exploration and the not limiting it, also goes back to the programming, because we've been programmed, this is for me, and stay here and stay in your lane, and all these different ways we limit ourselves in our experiential knowledge about what the world has to offer. So I think we could all use a bit of breaking the boundaries, and more so today than ever, because we're being called and programmed to go back into our make America whatever it is again.
Yeah. Well, so what comes up for me in this statement is, and in reflecting on my own experiences, is I've been told over my whole career, my adulthood, I don't remember so much my childhood, but like, I can't figure you out. Like, you're a bit of an enigma to me. Like, people will try to label, and then I break out of that, and they're like, I don't know what to do with you. And it's like, well, can you just let me be? I think that there's more expansion in that. And when we start to label our relationships or our people or even ourselves, like, it's very limiting. Like, do you really want to be in a box? Like, a mind doesn't even want to be in a box. The mind's trying to break out of it, right? It's so limiting. And I do get some of the categorizing and the labeling that's happened because people are fighting for identity. Like, everybody, I believe it's a basic human right for people to be able to be their most authentic self. And we live in a time that like people are challenging that right now, and so we have to put on labels to say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what's important to me.
Or for conversation's sake.
To maybe get something started, right?
Yes,
like it should be more of a conversation starter or a reference point, but push out of them too. I really don't. Like labels. I've fought my whole career not to have a title on my card. What's the point? Like, now, what is that title going to tell you about me? Like, there's so much more.
I think I read something about one of the, I forget which, it's a grocery store or something, and they don't use titles, not even the CEO. And they sort of just refer to each other by name, or I don't know if it's colleague or some word, general word like that, but everyone, from the top, down. It's like, so, and they have a success, there's something that they tied to, proving that works for keeping people engaged and motivated to do their work.
Yeah. I think Zappos is known for that culture. They were originally,
I think that might have been the one that I read about.
Where Tony, the founder, they were all in cubicles. They were all on the same floor. They would have roles. Roles are different than titles. Like, people would clearly understand what their role is, and their roles could change project to project. So they could experiment with different things and try new hats, but they all were treated equal and like had the same size office, and
cross training is what I call that. It's like, and I think we could use that in our society. And we're actually being challenged in ways to be that in our society today. I just was looking at the, that there was I don't know what the acronym for the LGBT community. Well, it has 6 new letters added to it, and so there's a double-edged sword to that for me, because I identify as gay today, but in my process I've been many things. Because I didn't start off necessarily as a gay person. It took me, having to think it, then find out and practice being it.
You started out in the Q part of that equation, which is questioning, right?
Well, exactly. But I actually, when I look at this new version of it, I look at it and I do embody all of or some of those things. But I was like, I'm kind of like a little miffed because I was like, I only had a limited version of that. If I'd had the bigger version, I might have hung out longer in some of the other spaces. You know, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no perfect solution, but yeah, they are adding some letters that make it confusing. And again, I mean, I think back to what we just said earlier, like it's a starting off point, like it helps to create the dialogue. And maybe we should just let it be that, you know, instead of like, okay, you know, being so, being more fluid, you know, with
all
that
of
language.
Yeah,
I like that. All right, so third thing I'm having a hard time changing sheets here. The third line that I liked in the words that you shared with me was, I really like this one. I want to give up the illusion that my beauty requires an attractive shell to be recognized. Talk to me about that one.
Well, when I think about that one, yeah, it touches me the most because for most of my life, you know, I didn't know that I was what people consider attractive. I've always lived from the inside out. And inside me is a poor black, poor child. I mean, I say that not, you know, poor so much in spirit, but just because of how the construct identified me and how I found my identity in the construct based on the programming, right? And, you know, when I realized, you know, and after the world kept telling me and made me see myself in ways that I actually did not around what was beautiful and not, I just wish everyone had that as an experience, you know, because I really find everyone to be that beautiful and look for that in everybody. So that's why I think I wrote about that, because I wanted to be specific about acknowledging sort of the delusion and illusion that we get around what beauty really is or really isn't.
There's two things that just came up for me, and I didn't plan on sharing either one of these when you shared that. One, it's like beauty is like a puzzle, you know, like they're like the pieces by themselves, they're interesting, but like you put it together and it like becomes a waterfall or like this beautiful land. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, and so to say like this one outside thing is that without having all these things put together, and like I know for a fact, like I could see an attractive person or a person I consider attractive from afar, and then I experience their personality, I'm like, ooh, not so attractive anymore, you know, or vice versa. But like there's so much more to that that I wish everybody has a chance to explore and understand and be told as a young child, like, you know, just gather your pieces, young child, you know, like you will be beautiful, just gather your pieces. And the other thing that comes to mind is an artist friend of mine in Dallas. His name is Leroy Roper. Big shout out to Leroy Roper. He is well known for being a body painter, okay? And I actually met him. I'm actually getting goosebumps sharing this story. So I had like this opportunity to meet him, and like I was doing like promotional modeling or something. Like it was going to be like the person like handing out shots at an event or something. And nobody wanted to do it because they had to be almost naked and body painted. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. I'm going to go do that. And I met him, and I went to this like really like rundown warehouse in Dallas. I'm by myself. You know, I'm meeting this man for the first time, and I'm about to get naked. And
talk about adventure,
right? Yeah, but he has such a way about him. He makes you really comfortable, and I say this all the time. Like, you don't get more naked after you get naked. It's like you kind of get over. It's like, well, I'm going to be naked, and in this case, it's like 3 hours of naked because he's like body painting you, right? And his thing was always he could make anybody beautiful.
Wow.
And he does, and so he has like a fan base of women that have been abused, or you know that have had to go through these different experiences of like finding their own beauty, and every single photo is unbelievable.
Wow.
You know, because he finds it. He's talking through, and he's, you know, using you as a canvas and painting you, and you know, you are beautiful. You know, like you see yourself too, and you're like, wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
He's really easy to find too. Leroy Roper. I'll share it in the archive so you guys can see it. You'd totally dig him. He's a special soul. But yeah, so it's like there's more to beauty than just what
meets the eye.
Advertisers and marketers are telling you. Everybody gets a chance to really determine what is beautiful to them, and that's one of the greatest journeys we can go on in life, is to explore that. I think that's pretty amazing. Last one, you also talked about knowing the difference, in your words, you talked about knowing the difference between necessary pain for growth and when it's a signal to move on. Do you have a process for determining the difference? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, no, I actually...
Everybody's like, tell me, wise one, I need this process.
Well, actually, no, there is no process to it. You kind of actually know once you've been through it, as to what that was. I mean, that 20/20 hindsight makes perfect vision. That's sort of how I delineate and have learned what that is.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, like just sitting and feeling, like we live in such a fast-paced world, but just like slowing down enough and go, well, how am I feeling in this? Like if interacting, and I'm assuming you're kind of talking about heartbreak a little bit in this, like knowing when to move on from maybe a friendship or a person. If every interaction with somebody is feeling like intense pain, that's probably a good sign to like, this is no longer serving you. But pain where you're like, I'm still exploring, like there's something about this pain that's exploring who I am, that's probably a good pain to stay in for a little bit. And then when you feel like, okay, I've got something out of this, like remove yourself from it.
Exactly.
I also think about people as like when you're with them, do you get energy? Like, is it energy giving or kind of vampired? Like, do you like really need to like take a vitamin B shot after like interacting with them like that? There's something there too. Like this interaction between two people or several people should be life-giving. Like I think,
or at least life-affirming.
Yeah, life-affirming for sure. What is there? As you're always journeying, as you're always kind of like looking at everything in this perfect presence, like you said earlier.
But with the eyes of a child.
With the eyes of a child,
yeah. That brings in the wonder and the adventurer in me.
Yeah. Is there a journey that you're yet to go on with yourself, or like something that you're like, oh, I want to kind of play with that, like a hobby, a thing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, actually, right now I have like 4 projects that I'm working on. The SCP is one of them. Of course, my Lemon Supreme business. I'm sticking my toe in the water of filmmaking. I'm directing my first film project, which is a documentary. Yeah. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm working with a lot of my close friends are entrepreneurs as well, and I'm actually working and advising them. And we're actually advising each other. We created a I don't know what we call it. It's a collective of sorts where we sit down and we kind of like, bolster each other and bounce ideas off of each other and help each other where we can. So that's
it's really important to have that too as an entrepreneur. Like entrepreneurs sometimes start out as a solo entrepreneur and they're trying to do everything. Everything is on them in their business, and you can't do that. Like you can't. But it's really helpful to have support and things people to bounce ideas off of, and people to hold you accountable.
Yes, the accountability is what I need the most.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's super important. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go into some random questions from the box. I like to show people at any given time how we're relating can change. Okay. And it also gives people a chance to get to know you more. And you could ask me questions too. We'll go back and forth. But before we go there, is there anything that comes to mind to encourage people to be more in a self journey? Like, if you had like I know you love being an uncle. Like me, I love being an aunt. It's one of my greatest claims to fame. If you were telling like a young nephew or niece, or encouraging them to, just
Well, actually, I recently had because I have a lot of nieces and nephews. Actually, I have 17 nieces and nephews. I have 42 grandnieces and nephews. You figure it out. Somebody had not to breed in my family is how I feel about it. But so
we're both that person in our family, by the way. You know, we're environmentalists. Yeah.
So, but they're, I don't know them all, but I love them all. Okay, that's a lot of people to get to know. But one of my nephews, I was talking with him, and actually he's not the only one, because I say it whenever I can to any of them. There's the ones that gravitate towards you. I guess they're supposed to be in your life, and then there's the others that are, still there. But the integrity piece, because I was able to share my idea of my learned integrity, because and I say that, to myself, to the audience, it's such we're missing integrity in in the air, or in the diaspora, or in the construct, as I like to call it. And if we could just really just get back to understanding what that is, and not only understanding what it is, but personalizing it, because I think there's an element of personal integrity that needs to be part of that.
Yeah.
And we get to decide what that is for us, because it can't be cookie cutter.
Yeah. How did you explain integrity to, I'm assuming, a child?
Well, no, this was an adult. Most of my nieces, and a lot of them, they're adults.
Okay.
I'm old enough to have adults.
Yeah, him too.
And so,
look at how novel this is. Two people in Los Angeles talking about their real age.
Yeah, that's another thing that I use for my own personal integrity.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's so much here, and back when I was acting and stuff, it was like you were always encouraged to, if you can look younger, be younger.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, but no, I just mentioned that, personal integrity, and actually I said to him, know what integrity. First of all, look it up, the dictionary version, and then kind of make it your own, and find that space, because you'll feel better. No matter what you're doing, even in your all your successes and failures, if you maintain some semblance of your personal integrity and integrity, however that looks for you.
Yeah, for me, what comes up for me when I think of personal integrity, the two things that are my modification of that is have integrity with my word. It's really important to me when I say something or make a promise, or if I'm going to say to someone I'm going to meet them, I'm going to be on time, because their time is value. I want to show them, I want to honor them. So have integrity with their words. So I don't always say yes, to something. I'll wait, because I'm good. If I commit, I commit. It's important for me to do that. And then knowing my own role in it. So before I start to assign blame and stuff, I'm I'm going to look at me first. I usually go, okay, wasn't my best self. Let's take the responsibility that I had in that situation first. And it's not even about communicating it to the situation, the person, but it's okay, just be clear about it, and it may evolve as you go back into that situation and talk, but just know your own role in it. Don't blame everybody outside of you. So those are my two pieces.
That's a good,
No, those are what.
Yeah, that's exactly
that's
it.
All right. All right. So as promised, I said we're gonna move on to what we call. It's just. Off-topic questions. It's just another way to get to know each other, and then to show that, just remember at any given time how you're relating can change. And this is why the phone is such a, polarizing effect on conversation and people sometimes, because we could be doing this and feeling really good about this, and then your phone rings and you're off somewhere else, or my phone rings and we're not there anymore, and it changes the dynamics. So I like people to, to have an idea of that, and we do it just by asking off-topic questions. It's fun. And the box has a mind of its own. So sometimes it keeps us where we were in the conversation. Other times it's way off. So we'll see.
Okay.
All right.
I'm adventurous.
You're adventurous. I know. Okay. This question has never come up on this show before. How would you murder someone and get rid of the body?
Oh, that's hilarious. Because that takes me back to. Okay, so I'm going to play with that question, because I don't think about murdering anyone.
Me neither.
People have pushed me to that edge, but it was a brief, fleeting moment. But I'm gonna play with that, because I have a friend. I told you I'm a veteran. I was in the military, and I remember this friend. She she was, I was in the Marines and she was a Marine, and they had a shortage of drill instructors in the Marine Corps, female drill instructors.
Yeah.
And so more females had to be drill instructors, and it's not the best job, and it's a hard job, right?
Yeah.
Training other Marines. Well, she had to go and they interview you to see your psych. It's almost like a police, the same thing the police have to go through. So she went to the interview, and one of the questions they asked her, and she didn't want to go, and she was thinking, how can I get out of this, having to go be this drill instructor? And they asked her, they asked her how many women Marines could fit into a Dempsey dumpster, the garbage bins.
What a question.
Yeah, well, and she said in that moment, she got inspired that she could use this to get her out. She said, whole or cut up. That canceled her out. We laughed about that so hard because it was like in the moment she was thinking, what can I say that would like ruin my chances? So when you asked me that question, that went back to that story. And then I thought about getting rid of the body, the whole or cut up part. That's what took me there.
That's every bad movie, right? That the mob boss, they're always cutting up the pieces. Like, who could do that? I could never do that. If I answered this question, I was thinking about it while
I could poison someone, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. I'm like, look, okay, so what would be the situation that I'd have to murder someone? Well, maybe it's like because they're hurting somebody else, or they're like, it's like I'm a spy, and I'm like, I got to take care of this bad guy. I'm assuming they're a bad person, because why else would I murder? Right. So, but I would want to do something with like where I'd poison them, because I wouldn't want to shoot or cut. I wouldn't want to hurt a person. I can't even
blood, I can't even see my own blood leave.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. And then it would have to be like cremation or something, because like again, like I'm not. Oh, geez, the whole idea just seems not gonna happen. All right, that question. Let's see what else we got.
Wait, do I get to pick one?
Oh yeah, you go ahead.
Let me do one.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got?
What's your personal hell? These are kind of
personal hell. I experienced it last Friday on my date. It's my personal hell is, I'm a communicator. I'm also a relator. I care about this. I care about the quality of relating. My personal hell is being misunderstood, or not being able to be authentic, be able to like be with people and have like a real full experience. Any time that I'm not being heard is a direct connection to me feeling loved. Like if I don't feel you really are experiencing my words, or you're not curious about them, like saying, hey, can I just check in with you? Did you mean that? When people are not doing that, that's a hell for me. I say my greatest pet peeves in life is people not being around people that don't know that they're sharing the world with other people. That feels like hell. Like to like want so much and feel so much that like what's missing in this like really polarizing world right now is the remembrance that there's something between us and between all people that connects us. And, at basic level, we're all human beings. We have very similar experiences. We if we talked long enough, we would find things that we have in common and we care about. And to be in a group of people or in a situation where I don't feel any of that, where there is no recognition that we're a we, even if we're just we in the space together, that's hell to me. That feels like hell to me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How would you answer?
I relate to that. I relate to that because I just recently was able to say this about learning about the love language. I take a mindfulness class, a friend of mine teaches, and we were talking about love language, and I realized that's my love language as well, is to be understood and understand. I think that, I'm a smatterer, I talk a lot, but it's from that place of sharing. Yeah. And, I want it, to and fro. Yeah,
definitely. We have time to do two. We could do one more each to each other. I'm enjoying this. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay, Box. Oh, that's a good question. What possessions would you like to get rid of?
Oh, that's a good, okay, so I actually have some pieces of furniture that I need to get rid of. They're in my they're in my garage, and I can't park in my garage, so I need to get rid of some pieces of furniture for sure right now.
So it's just taking up space?
Yeah, and I'm actually at this time trying to I'm a natural minimalist in ways, but I need to be even more minimalist than I've been.
Yeah, I need to do it with my wardrobe. My closet is just such a nightmare, and you only wear the same things over and over again, and the rest, why do I have all this stuff? It's ridiculous. Right, your turn.
Okay, there we go.
It's fun, right?
Did you want to pick your own?
No. I was tempted.
Interesting.
Okay.
Is monogamy natural for humans?
Oh gosh, wow. That's a complicated question because the humans, like male and female, treat this differently. Should it? What was it? Should it be? Is it? I don't think it's natural. No, I don't think it's natural. I think there's benefits to working towards it. Working on it so it feels natural. I do believe that that there's a certain amount of growth. We can self-grow and journey on ourselves all that a lot. We can go very far with just doing that, but there's a certain amount of growth and well-being that happens through intimacy, that having somebody reflect back who you are and challenge you and check you, and that intimacy comes with time and experience and communication. So the idea of a monogamous relationship where that's happening, and I also believe sex can get better too. Especially if you're curious, and let's spice things up. So there's benefits of that, but I don't believe it's natural, and I don't believe it's for all people. Yeah. How'd you answer that?
Well, exactly. I mean, I don't think it's natural, but I do think it's a choice.
Yeah.
And that's, sort of the human aspect, because we get to make choices from will and intellect, or so, different than if we were just already programmed like everything else.
Yeah. And I don't believe in enforced monogamy, Jordan Peterson, FYI. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, yeah. That'll be an interesting conversation. Off camera.
Yeah. Well, it's just this professor in Toronto that's like a talking head and is getting booked a lot on shows, and where he says some great points. He's an intelligent person. His style of debating, to be contrary, is, I have a problem with that, but he's also talked in the space of young men and the violence and the shootings, that they would, he's suggested that there potentially would not be so many of them if women were given more sex. And he suggests enforce monogamy and more on the woman to the man in a heterosexual relationship as a, as a solution to that problem, which, I don't agree. So. And there's more to that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to switch gears one more time. That was fun. I like that round.
Yeah, that was good.
We're going to do what we call Heart Swell on the show, and it's just an opportunity for you, the guest, to give a shout out, acknowledge somebody that's really made a difference in your life. It could be one person, a group of people. It could be an act of forgiveness, a new commitment, but the idea here is just to show that it's not so hard to express deep emotions, and I hope that by people seeing this, that they get the courage to pick up the phone or make it a time to say nice words to someone, because it seems to be, and having people sit in this chair and do this, and me trying to do it more in my life, it seems to be a gift for both the giver and the receiver. So it's why wouldn't we do that more? But sometimes it's intimidating, to share deep expression to somebody. So first of all, does someone come to mind? Do you have somebody that you're willing to?
Well, it's probably, more than one person, as always. When I think about, the good that's in my life, there's a lot of good people in my life right now, but, I'm holding dear some, so hopefully they'll get it as I say it. And just let me just say, lately I'm really getting verklempt a lot and wanting to cry, but it's not from a sad place, it's from a really happy place, even though all this stuff is going on in the world. So so if I start crying, you guys, you just have to go with
tissues.
Because I'm been crying a lot. I think I'm healing in ways, some stuff that needs to be healing, even though I know we're living in contrary to healing times.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So we'll cry with you if we need to. And
Okay,
of course, like,
join me
this
in
is
the
the time to look at the camera and really say that person's, at least their first name, so they know, like, hey, he's talking to me. And like,
well, I'm gonna have to say, well, they'll know. I'm not gonna say the names,
all right,
because I think they'll know. And if it is a message that can be interpreted with more, because like I said, I have more than my fair share of love in my life right now.
So
I
people
want
can
to
call you, go, Clay, was that for me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, go for it.
So lead with love, live with love, and learn about what you love is my message to everyone. And I'm so grateful to the people that are in my life because they are teaching me a lot about what it is to be in love with myself, therefore being able to share love with them by example, by inspiration, and just by sheer loving and caring. And you know who you are, and there's more than one of you, because it's almost like having children. I couldn't pick a favorite. I love you. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm feeling some tears. Like, I say it, I feel like a repeat record sometimes, but it's just being in this room right now and hearing you share that. It is so special. I wish somehow in film we could capture that feeling, you know, like, and put a scent through the camera and let people know, oh, this is how connection's supposed to feel. Like, this is how human interaction is, you know, intended to inspire. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. I felt that. That pretty much brings us to the end of the show. I'm really, really thankful that you took the time to be here. We will share, you know, the couple things that we talked about in the show. If like anybody knows more about the ins and outs of this SCP cannabis program in California, you know, reach out to me. I can connect you with Cleo. I'm going to share his Instagram handle is on the screen right now. It's Lemon Supreme LA on Instagram and I believe Facebook as well. You can find him there. You could, you know, maybe taste that pie because that pie is pretty good. I tasted it. But yeah, you know, if you know anything more about that program, you want to connect with Cleo, that's where you'll find him. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's been a really good experience for me. Thank you.
Good.
This is my first interview on camera or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing it with us.
Thank you. Thanks. This was good. This was good. Experience.
So next week's guest, I think you know Jamila from the Relational Center.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jamila's going to be on. We're definitely going to be talking about sex because she's
like
she's my girl for that. She's we're not totally sure what direction we're going to go, but we're definitely going to be talking about that. So that's going to be a good show to tune in for. Sure. You know, again, thank you for being here. Everyone, you know that there's a PSE coming up in the space, Public Shared Experience. That's June 28th. So look on the website for that. This show will archive this week on stephaniemichele.com, so you can check out that. I'll share some links to things that Cleo's doing and some of the things that we talked about in this conversation. And as always, guys, I just want to encourage everybody to relate with more curiosity. See you next week.
Thank you. Thanks.